We see that time and time again. There has been reports on fire incidents, fire accidents everywhere in Amazonia, from one to another. And until now, not one single emergency unit has been provided in Amazonia, nor roads for these emergency units, if ever created, to ply on. Reoccurring accidents by road and fire, too many to count. Now, just yesterday, a devastating fire in Mile 16 Boya, chief town in the Atlantic zone of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, claimed the life of an innocent 1-year-old baby. This incident, amongst many others, is raising urgent questions about the colonial government's neglect of the British Southern Cameroons under the declaration of the war in 2016. If all of these happenings, powered by the colonial regime and its surrogates, are not targeted, strategic, and systemic to annihilate Amazonians, what are the odds that they all only end up as a disservice to Amazonians and its people? Well, we're seeing the priorities of the colonial regime through stooges like Atanga and Jipo, and we can't help but wonder, what are the odds? What are the odds if all of these happenings powered by the colonial regime and its surrogates are not targeted, strategic, and systemic to annihilate Amazonians? What are the odds that they all only end up as a disservice to Amazonia and its people? Well, we have with us in the studio, as always, Barrister Mbeseha to help us go through this. We want to ask you, Barrister Mbeseha, you're welcome, first of all. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Barrister Mbeseha, we want to ask you, would you agree that these recent targeting of institutions in Amazonia, would you agree that the institution targeting and organizations going through colonial authorizations, mind you, there is a lot more than what we reported about the NGOs and even this recent of the church. But then would you agree that there is more than meets the eye, like a systemic and strategic agenda to infiltrate and control the Amazonian society?
I do agree, but I don't think they are targeting only the Ambazonian society now. What Tanga G is doing is purely political. This is the eve of an election year coming next year. They want to have everything in control so that come to the 2025, the president, his poor beer, wins the elections at all costs. Because in terms of what he's doing on churches, I don't think his so-called presidential beliefs in churches affect Amazonia in any form or shape. In Amazonia, the principal churches we know include the Catholics, the Baptists, the Presbyterians. They have a very large, in fact, they have, if not more than half of the population of Amazonia. I wonder any of those churches in Amazonia has anything called presidential decree. And so I think it is an overreach. What is the church in the first place? The church is a place of worship. The church is a gathering of people. It's not necessarily a building. So if you want to organize a worshiping group in your house, call it a church, church of worshipers, the church of the devil, the church of whatever thing you call it. You want to get a permission from Mr. Tanganji through the president? That's physically impossible. That's not even required. And so his talk of churches, I'm still dealing with churches, has no meaning. Has really no meaning. They just want to cow the population, and of course, cow Anglophones. Because down the road, when we begin to analyze what he's doing to NGOs, Ambazina will be more concerned.
Barrister Mbeseha, there's something you said that's of concern to me. You mentioned that, affecting the church doesn't in any way impact Amazonia. But we've seen controversial figures in religious organizations like Bishop. I don't want to mention him, but we know these people who have rather gone to the side of the colonial regime and urged Amazonians to join in voting in the upcoming elections and all that. Would you still agree that, the religious organizations doesn't in any way impact the Amazonian society?
It might, but the important thing is to know is this: those religious organizations that you and me know, which I've mentioned, the Catholics, the Baptists, the Presbyterians, they are very, very large in numbers. The action of their pastor, call it the moderator, or the bishop, does not affect individual voting patterns. Absolutely not. If that were the case, we're going to come to it. Why is Archbishop Andrew Ankia's opinion not bound the people of Bamenda, including the university? The inhabitants of Bamenda, metropolitan place, are Christians, Catholics, Baptists, Presbyterians, who have talked about no normalcy in those areas. Archbishop Andrew Nkia has preached it 10,000 times over, that there's normalcy there. It does not work. Again, the church is always there. In 1990, the CPDM was in Bamenda, 1990. They were campaigning to win elections. Nifrundi was there. The church was there. In spite of all that, Nifrundi won Northwest Southwest, call it at the time. They won by more than 80%, notwithstanding whatever thing their pastors were talking about, or their bishops. So the Christian church, if they are talking about Christian churches, is not homogeneous. I've explained here many times before what the Bishop of Amanda, which happens to be called the Archbishop, says. Does not even bind his own Christian. Talk less of binding the Christians of Nsop, where there's a bishop there in Kumbo. Talk less of binding the Christians of Mamfe, where there's a bishop sitting there, or Kumba, or Boya. And so it's not homogeneous. What the moderator of the Protestant church says or does takes money or takes nothing. Does not bind the Christians. That guy who just left is from Akwaya. Akwaya is the most affected area in this revolution. Most of them are in Nigeria. They are followers of the Protestant church. And so what the pastor was doing there, the moderator called it, could have some effect, but very little effect. Because the fact that I'm talking like this, I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic. I don't think what the bishop says or does binds me in any form or shape. And so they will try. They will try. Because we cannot deny that in the churches, there are some vulnerable people who believe that the word of the pastor is the gospel truth, who believe that the word of the bishop or the priest is God sent. So they will infiltrate to use those opportunities. But Atangaji is not doing that for nothing. That's why he's kept there as a minister. Whether he fails to succeed does not affect his income, his social position in society called minister. And so he will continue doing that, even maybe until he goes down by death or by dismissal. And so he will always attempt to do what he's doing. He doesn't even know the churches. He's telling them to close by themselves before he looks for them. So he doesn't even know who's registered or not registered. He can say all that. Bottom line, he's trying to coerce. He's trying to threaten people. To do what? Not to go to church. No, to turn around because the president, he says, is the one who can authorize. And so if you don't vote for this president, it means he will ban your church. It means he will ban your organization. That's the bottom line. Over to you.
Well said. Very well said, Barrister Mbeseha. Well,